Witness the complete story of the Bible.
Only on Bible Scene.
I found myself carried to the very beginning of all things, standing in a void of silent darkness. An angel of the Lord stood beside me, his presence comforting and awed. "Behold," he whispered, "the birth of time." In that instant, a voice spoke out of the endless night, a voice of authority and love. "Let there be light." A blinding light burst forth, slicing through the darkness. I saw the chaos of emptiness begin to take form. Day and night were born as the light was separated from the dark. The first morning dawned, and where once there was nothing, now there was the beginning of a world. On the next day the voice spoke again, and the waters that covered the newborn world were divided. I watched as an expanse unfurled, the sky vast and blue separating the waters above from the waters below. On the third day the voice called the waters under the sky to gather in one place. I felt the ground tremble beneath me as dry land rose from the depths, forming continents and islands. With a word, the Creator carpeted the barren land with life. Green grass sprouted, plants and trees of every kind burst from the soil, their leaves stretching out toward the light. The world that had been cold and empty blossomed with living color and the promise of fruit. On the fourth day, the angel pointed upward, and I saw lights appear in the heavens. The voice set two great lights in the sky, a radiant sun to rule the day and a gentle moon to rule the night. Countless stars were scattered across the darkness like bright jewels to mark seasons and years. They sparkled in the night canvas, a testament to the vastness of creation. On the fifth day, the waters below stirred with new motion. I peered into the seas and saw shapes moving, fish great and small swimming in the depths, and mighty creatures breaching the waves. Above the land, the sky filled with the beating of wings. Birds of every color soared and sang, gliding on the wind that God had breathed. Life filled the seas and skies, and the voice blessed them to be fruitful and multiply. Then came the sixth day, the culmination of creation. I felt the ground shift as the voice brought forth living creatures from the earth. Beasts roamed the plains, lions with golden manes roaring in the sunlight, elephants trumpeting by watering holes, cattle grazing peacefully in fields, and every creeping thing scurrying in the undergrowth. The world was alive with the movement of animals, each after their kind. Yet something was still missing, a steward for this vibrant world, a being made to reflect the Creator's own heart. The Lord stooped down to the dust of the earth. With divine hands he formed a figure in his own image, a man. I watched in reverence as the Creator leaned close and breathed the breath of life into the man's nostrils. The man's eyes opened and he became a living soul. This was Adam, the first human cradled by God's own breath. But the Creator's work was not done, for he saw that it was not good for man to be alone. So he caused Adam to fall into a deep sleep. From the man's side, God fashioned a companion, a woman, Eve, beautiful and innocent, and brought her to Adam. In joy, Adam welcomed her, bone of his bones and flesh of his flesh. The angel beside me smiled at the sight, and I understood that in this union love was born into the world. The Creator placed the man and woman in a garden called Eden, a paradise of perfect peace. I saw trees laden with delicious fruits of every kind. A river watered the garden, dividing into streams that glistened in the sunlight. Adam and Eve walked with God under the shade of the trees in the cool of the day. their hearts untroubled and their faces glowing with life. In the center of the garden, two special trees grew. One was the tree of life, its fruit giving everlasting life. The other was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, a tree of wisdom and responsibility. God spoke to the humans and commanded, "You may eat from every tree in the garden except from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For if you eat of it, you shall surely die." I felt a shadow pass over us at the giving of this command, a whisper of caution in an otherwise perfect world. For a time, Adam and Eve lived in pure harmony, with creation, with each other, and with God. They tended the garden and learned the wonders of the world hand in hand. But one day, as I watched from behind an ancient oak, another voice entered the garden. It came from a serpent coiled artfully on a low branch, its golden scales shimmering in the dappled light. The serpent's eyes were cunning and its words smooth as honey. It spoke to Eve. "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" Eve, innocent and curious, answered that only the tree in the middle was forbidden lest they die. The serpent's voice curled like smoke. "You will not surely die. For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Eve looked at the fruit hanging from the forbidden tree. It was pleasing to the eye and its aroma sweet. My heart pounded as I saw her pluck one ripe fruit from the branch. Adam stood beside her, silent and intrigued. Eve took a bite and then handed the fruit to Adam, who also ate. In that fleeting moment, the garden seemed to hold its breath. Then I felt a jolt, as if creation itself cried out. Something profound had changed. Adam and Eve's eyes were opened, and with that knowledge came a crashing awareness of guilt and shame. They realized they were naked and hurried to gather fig leaves to cover themselves. Where once they had walked freely, now they cowered among the trees, their innocence lost. In the cool of the evening, the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden echoed through the grove. There was sorrow in that sound, as if the very voice of God carried heartbreak. Adam and Eve, trembling, hid themselves among the leaves. The Lord called out, "Where are you?" Voice quavering, Adam finally answered, "I heard you and I was afraid. Because I was naked, so I hid." In response came the gentle yet grave question, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree I commanded you not to eat from?" Adam confessed his disobedience, blaming Eve, and Eve in turn blamed the serpent who deceived her. The Lord's face was pained as he spoke the judgment that would echo through history. To the serpent he said, "Because you have done this, you are cursed above all creatures. You will crawl on your belly and eat dust all your days." And the Lord declared an enduring conflict. "I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." The angel beside me whispered, "This is the first promise, that one day a child of the woman will destroy the evil one, though he himself will suffer." To the woman, God said with sorrow, "I will greatly multiply your pain in childbirth. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you." And to Adam he said, "Because you listened to the serpent and disobeyed my command, the ground is cursed because of you. In toil you shall eat from it all your life. Thorns and thistles it will bring forth for you. By the sweat of your face you will eat bread until you return to the ground, for out of dust you were taken, dust you are, and to dust you shall return." So the Lord banished Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden. I followed as they walked, weeping and in hand, through the gates of paradise into the wide and barren world beyond. In time, the offspring of the woman will come, the promised one who will crush the serpent's head and redeem what has been lost. In those words, I heard a distant hope shining through the darkness of our exile. Yet as people multiplied over the earth, their hearts again turned to wickedness. In the generations after Adam, violence and corruption filled the world. God finally sent a great flood to cleanse the earth, sparing only righteous Noah and his family in an ark, along with pairs of every living creature. When the floodwaters receded, God set a rainbow in the clouds as a promise that never again would he destroy all life with water. Noah's descendants spread across the lands, and still the struggle between sin and grace continued. Many generations later, I found myself standing under the scorching sun of Egypt. The descendants of Noah's son Shem had become the people of Israel, and they were living as slaves in a foreign land. I saw them toiling under the lash of Egyptian taskmasters, building brick storehouses for Pharaoh. Their lives were made bitter with hard labor in mortar and brick, and their cries of suffering rose up to heaven. But God had not forgotten his people or his promises to their forefather Abraham. He heard their groaning and remembered the covenant he had made to make them a great nation. One day, far from the royal cities, I followed an 80-year-old shepherd up the side of Mount Horeb. His name was Moses, a Hebrew who had been raised in Pharaoh's palace but had fled Egypt long ago. As Moses guided his flock, he came upon a strange sight, a bush that burned with fire yet was not consumed. Moses turned aside, eyes wide in wonder. From the heart of the blazing bush, the voice of God called his name. "Moses, Moses!" Trembling, Moses answered, "Here I am." God told him to remove his sandals, for he stood on holy ground. I fell to my knees as the very presence of the Lord emanated from the flame. And God said, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." Moses hid his face, afraid to look at God. Then the Lord spoke words that filled my heart with hope. "I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt. I have heard their cry because of their taskmasters, and I know their sorrows. I have come down to deliver them from the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up to a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey. Come now, I will send you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt." Moses stammered at the thought of facing mighty Pharaoh, protesting that he was not eloquent or worthy. But God assured him, "I will be with you." And when Moses asked what name he should give when the people asked who sent him, God answered, "I am who I am. Tell them I am has sent you." Thus commanded Moses returned to Egypt with his brother Aaron as his spokesman. I entered the grand halls of Pharaoh with them. Pharaoh sat upon his throne draped in gold and flanked by snarling idols of Egypt's gods. Moses, gripping his wooden staff, delivered God's message. "Thus says the Lord, the God of